All right, I guess I put it off as long as I can. It's time for the SEC championship game preview. LSU versus my Georgia Bulldogs. I think this will be a good game. It's probably will be the most watched of all the conference championship games. It usually is, and I don't think this year will be any different. It's going to be tough for Georgia. They're an underdog in this game. LSU's favored by about a touchdown or 7.5, depending on where you look. We'll pull the exact numbers up here in just a second. Georgia making its third straight trip to this game. LSU hasn't been here in quite some time. I think 2011 was the last time LSU played in the SEC title game. It should be a good one. Let's get right to it. The SEC championship game preview and prediction. LSU versus Georgia coming up right now. Shout out to Bet Now. They've been sponsoring all these preview and prediction videos all season long for the second year in a row. They've been real good to me. Let's return the favor. If you guys are going to gamble on college football this season or this weekend, do it on betnow.eu. There's a link in the description of this video that'll take you over there. Click that link, get yourself signed up. There's a place for you to enter a promo code. Enter promo code Uncle Lou. That's one word, Uncle Lou, and they're going to give you a bonus on whatever you deposit. Take this football knowledge that you have, use it to earn yourself some money. All right, here we go. SEC West champion LSU Tigers come in 12-0 to face the East champ Georgia Bulldogs, coming in at 11-1. A tale of two totally different teams here, right? LSU, of course, lighting it up offensively all year long. Georgia, one of the best defenses in America all year long, giving up only, I think, 12 touchdowns for the entire season. They haven't given up more than 2 touchdowns in a single game. Some of Georgia's defensive numbers this season are just absolutely ridiculous when you start looking into them. LSU's offensive numbers equally as ridiculous. It's hard to believe how far LSU's offense has come in just one season. It seems like several years LSU has had a defense good enough maybe to win the West, but the offense was lagging behind. Exact opposite this year. They had an explosive offense. They were able to finally get over the hump and beat Alabama and win the West coming into this game, like I mentioned, at 12-0. Georgia, third straight year, going 11-1 in the regular season, dropping a home game this year to South Carolina. A very weird game, and LSU fans love to talk about this game for absolutely no reason at all, like it matters or means anything for this game coming up here. Georgia's defense gave up 1 touchdown in that game. So if Georgia's defense gives up 1 touchdown in this game, guess what? They'll win. Turnovers were the issue in that game, right? Georgia had 4 turnovers in that game, and offensively weren't able to get it going, and we know what happened. It's no secret what Georgia is going to do or try to do, right? They're going to want to run the ball, take a couple of deep shots here and there, play keep away from LSU, possession, chew the clock, try to keep LSU's offense off the field. I mean, that's what they're going to try to do. Will they be able to do it? I don't know. We're going to find out. I see a lot of comments. No way you can stop LSU's offense. Well, yes, there is a way. Auburn did it in Baton Rouge. Okay, they held LSU to 23 points. That's the key to beating LSU, whether you're Georgia or any other team. You've got to limit what LSU does offensively. Not very many teams in America are going to have an offense capable of winning a shootout with LSU. Maybe Clemson, maybe Ohio State, maybe Oklahoma. Those would be it. When you're talking about offenses that can just go punch for punch with LSU, those are really the only offenses that can do that. So that's not a recipe to beat LSU for most teams, including my Georgia Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs have got to keep this a low-scoring game, in my opinion, in order to have a chance to win this game. Now, I know that just because Auburn held them to 23 points does not mean that Georgia can do that. However, that's the blueprint. That's the recipe I think that Georgia will be trying to follow here in this game. I think Georgia's offense, as bad as it's been this year at times, is better than Auburn's offense. I think most people would probably agree with that. Neither offense is great this year, but I think Georgia's offense is probably a little bit better than Auburn's, and I clearly think Georgia's defense is better than Auburn's, although Auburn has a really good defense too. So Georgia's going to have to hope that this game goes very similar to the way that the LSU-Auburn game went, which Auburn lost 23-20 on the road in Baton Rouge. Georgia's got to be able to run the ball here. if the first quarter comes to a close in this game and it's clear that Georgia cannot run the ball and they're already throwing the ball more than what they normally do, I think that's probably a recipe for disaster. If you go back even to last year's Georgia-LSU game, Georgia got away from the run early in that game and were never able to catch back up to LSU. Can't do that here. If we fall behind by 2 or 3 scores to LSU in the first half of this game, it's over in my mind. I don't think Georgia's offense is built to come from behind. We're down a couple of key players with Cager, probably our best wide receiver this year, at least in terms of numbers. I think he's probably 3rd or 4th in terms of talent at the wide receiver position on Georgia. But for whatever reason, him and Fromm seem to have a chemistry. He's out, of course, with an ankle. Pickens suspended for the first half after beating the shit out of that podunk Georgia Tech player in the second half last week. He's out for the first half. Swift has a banged up shoulder. I mean, let's just be real. If you're a Georgia fan like I am, if Georgia wins this game, it's going to be an upset, period. There is a reason that LSU is favored by 7.5 in this game. They have looked like the better team offensively for the entire year. Georgia has struggled. Offensively, watching Georgia offensively this year like I have, it really looks like everything they do is a struggle offensively, whereas LSU, it looks like they're playing against air a lot of the times. They just have carved up defense after defense. Now, defensively for LSU, they've got some serious issues. I can point to one game or two where they probably played pretty well, but the majority of the season, LSU's defense has been below average, and that's just the reality. Now, some of that, I think, is because of the offense that they run, right? When you have an offense that scores in a minute and a half, as opposed to 5 or 6 minutes, the defense is going to be back out on the field quicker with an offense that scores quicker, right, than an offense that sort of chews clock, right? So that is part of LSU's defensive struggles this year, I think. However, that alone is not an excuse for giving up 38 points to Vanderbilt, 700 yards to Ole Miss. I could go on and on and on. They just have given up a ton of points and yards way too many times this year for me to feel like LSU has a legitimately elite defense. That's not a knock on LSU as a whole. They're clearly one of the best 4 teams in America. And like I mentioned, they're favored in this game for a reason. Georgia's going to have to play its best offensive game of the year here to win this game, period. There's been a lot of games where Georgia has dominated the game, but the score has been closer than it should have. Why? Field goals. Can't do that in this game. I can look at the Florida game. I can look at the, was it the Kentucky game or the Missouri game? Missouri game. You dominate the game. You're up and down the field, but you're bogging down in the red zone and kicking field goals instead of touchdowns. Now, some of that is just the offense bogging down. Some of that, unfortunately, is Jake Fromm missing way too many touchdown passes this year, especially on the opponent's side of the field. You can't have that here. When you get an opportunity to strike, you have to make it count in this game against LSU. You can't miss a wide open receiver for a touchdown and then kick a field goal 2 plays later and feel like that's a win in this game. I don't think Georgia's recipe this year of a lot of yards, a lot of field goals, and a touchdown or 2 is going to beat LSU in this game. I just don't. I trust Georgia's defense. It's been amazing all year long. They're not going to shut LSU out. LSU is going to get their points. They're going to score. They're going to hit some big plays. I just feel like it's impossible to totally take that away from LSU. That's how good their offense is this year, in my opinion. Georgia's going to have to match that. Now, the defense is going to have to play out of its mind again, like it has all year, and I think limit LSU to the 20s. I find it hard to believe that Georgia wins this game if LSU gets into the 30s. I just don't trust Georgia's offense to win that type of game this year. Georgia's going to go as far as their defense takes them this year. No point in this video of talking about whose fault that is, whether it be Kirby, Coley, Fromm, wide receiver, whatever. There's no, the reasons why is irrelevant. If you've watched any Georgia football at all this year, then you know what I'm saying is true, regardless of what you think the reason might be. Georgia's offense has been below average, and it just hasn't been up to standards, honestly. There is talent all over the offensive side of that ball. Multiple 5-star offensive linemen, multiple 5-star running backs, multiple 5-star wide receivers, well, and a 4-star quarterback. We had some 5-star quarterbacks, but, well, I'm not going to get into that either. It's ride or die with Jake Fromm right now, and that's just the way it is. He's going to have his best game. He played good against Florida. but he missed open touchdown passes in that game that led to eventual field goals instead of touchdowns. And like I mentioned, that cannot happen in this game. It just cannot. I think Kirby and company will come up with the best possible game plan they can to try to slow down LSU's offense, and I think at times it will work. I do think LSU will struggle offensively at times in this game. I also think LSU is going to hit some big ones in this game too. They're going to hit some explosive plays. They're going to convert some third downs. Joe Burrow running could be huge in this game. I'll go back to last year's Georgia LSU game. Lots of points in that game where the defense won on first and second down, and Joe Burrow extended drives with his legs on third down. Must be great to have a quarterback that's capable of doing that for you. I would have no way of knowing. But the point is, you get LSU to third and long, you got to get off the field here. You can't allow LSU to convert third downs on you, particularly third and longs. You got to find a way to win on that down and get off the field. And offensively, same thing. You got to win on third downs because there are going to be plenty of third downs for Georgia's offense in this game, because there has been plenty of third downs for Georgia's offense all season long. This is not an explosive offense. This is probably the least explosive offense I've seen from Georgia in a long, long time. And if you look at the number of explosive plays that we've had this year, the stats bear that out. We are going to have to take some chances here. I like Blaylock. He's playing really, really well. He's a true freshman. He has gotten better every single week this season. I still think Demetrius Robertson is an elite college-level wide receiver. Why he has not broken out at Georgia yet, is anyone's guess at this point. But he had 700 yards receiving in 2016. I know it was in the Pac-12, but 700 yards receiving is a lot of receiving yards. And he had a quarterback that no one watching this video can even name. So we got to find a way to get him involved in this game. We're going to have to do something to make up for no Cager and no Pickens in the first half. Going to have to do something. Tight ends over the middle, whatever it happens to be. Running backs, get James Cook maybe lined up in the slot a couple of times, whatever it takes. If there's any, I don't buy any of this, Georgia hiding its offense. I don't buy any of that. None of it. Georgia would not have hit its offense against South Carolina just so they could lose. Anything they were pretending to hide would have been unhidden during that game if that was the case. With that being said, I do expect Georgia to run some things this week that they have not run all season. Not because they were hiding them or anything like that, but I think the coaches know if they don't find a way to score some points in this game, they're not going to win. I know Kirby and company love the defense and trust the defense to win most of the time, but they're not idiots. They make $7-8 million a year for a reason. In the case of Kirby Smart, and these assistants make tons of money for a reason. They've got to be watching LSU tape this week and knowing that Georgia is going to have to find a way to score some points to win this game. I expect to see some things we haven't seen. I expect maybe to see some formations that we haven't seen, some plays we haven't seen, some route trees, hopefully, that we haven't seen. DeAndre Swift, I hope he's 100% and good to go. He's obviously our most dynamic playmaker on offense. I like Brian Herrien. I like James Cook. I like Zamir White. They ain't DeAndre Swift. So I hope he's okay. I hope he's able to go 100%, and I hope he's able to play the whole game. But it is what it is. And again, it won't be any excuse here. Everyone's injured in November. It's next man up here. And there is no tomorrow for Georgia if they lose this game. I get it that we'll go to the Sugar Bowl. That's not the goal anymore for Georgia. You need to be winning these games at least half the time, in my opinion, if you're Georgia. And right now, Kirby is 1-1 in SEC championship games. He needs to improve that to 2-1, not fall to 1-2. I fully expect Georgia to come out and give its best effort of the season, especially offensively, throw absolutely everything they have at LSU. And again, LSU's defense does have some issues. If Georgia comes out in this game and struggles offensively like they did against Auburn or Florida or any of these other teams, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Very disappointed, because LSU is not one of the best 2 or 3 defenses we have played this year. It's the best offense we've played. It's not even close to the best defense that we've played. And I expect the amount of talent on Georgia's offense and the coaches that we have to be able to come up with a way to score some points on LSU into the 30s. That's what I expect Georgia to get into the 30s here. The goal on defense should be to limit LSU to the 20s. I think that should be the goal. Go back to last year's SEC championship game, Georgia versus Alabama. You guys remember what people were saying about Alabama all last year. Best offense they've ever had. Broke every Alabama offensive record known to man, particularly passing the ball. They were scoring 50 points a game. Georgia has no chance. They're going to get blown out. Georgia dominated that game and should have beat them, okay? And Alabama ended up scoring 35. We lost 35-28. That's what Georgia has to play, that type of game here in this game to win. You've got to hold LSU to the 20s. They end up getting that last touchdown and getting into the 30s. They probably win the game. If Georgia can hold them to 28, 27, 24 points, I think Georgia has a really good chance to win. That's got to be the game plan going in. I think that's what it'll. I think that's what the game plan will be going in. The coaches know they got to score. They know the defense has to get off the field on third down. I trust my dogs to get it done. I mean, I'm a Georgia fan. There's no way I'm going to pick against them here. If you watch, first of all, if you watch these videos for betting advice, you're an idiot to begin with. But if you take my betting advice on Georgia games ever, you're even more of an idiot than I ever might have thought you were. Don't take my betting advice on this game. I'm going to take the points here. LSU's right now is a 7.5 point favorite. This has been bouncing around from about 6 to 7.5 in that range there. I don't know where you'll find it. If you're watching this video later today or tomorrow, it may have changed a little bit at 7.5 now. I'm going to take Georgia in the 7.5 here. I think even if Georgia loses, it'll be a close game. This should not be a blowout. Georgia's defense should never get blown out. And I'm going to say this too. If this game goes really, really bad, LSU wins this game something like 45-10, I better not see any Georgia fans anywhere trying to blame this defense, because I'm going to tell you what happens. You look at the Auburn game. Georgia had 10 3-and-outs against Auburn. 10 times Georgia got the ball and went 3-and-out against Auburn. You do that against LSU, and you will lose 45-10. We will 100% lose 45-10 if we can't even get a single first down on 10 drives against LSU. If we punt the ball 10 times, 3-and-out against LSU, this will be a blowout. That better not happen. And if it does happen, that won't be the defense's fault. And don't turn the ball over. I don't know what it is with Georgia and turning the ball over. That comes in bunches. 4 against South Carolina, 3 or 4 against Georgia Tech. I honestly can't think of another turnover we've had all season long. I'm sure maybe we have. But the point is, if we turn the ball over once, we turn it over 4 times. You turn the ball over 2 or 3 times against LSU, it'll be 45-10. Offense goes 3-and-out 10 times, it'll be 45-10. And none of that will be the defense's fault. The defense has got Georgia to this game. Georgia's offense needs to win this one. They owe that to the defense. I expect Georgia's offense to come out and play well, starting with Jake Fromm, your third-year junior quarterback, your third year starting, your third SEC title game. Do not come out in this game and complete less than 50% of your passes like you've done the last 4 games, sir. Don't do it. Find a way to make some plays. Give me the dogs and the 7.5 points. All right, there it is, the SEC preview and prediction video. That's not the trash talk. The hype and hate video will be coming tomorrow. So forget about everything I just said in this video. Tomorrow's hype and hate video, you already know we're beating the bejesus out of LSU, and it won't even be close. I'll give you all the information you need to know about Edo and the Corn Doggers in tomorrow's hype and hate video, which will be out sometime tomorrow afternoon. But I appreciate you guys watching this series of previews I did for the games this week. Again, I've previewed the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC title games, as well as the American Conference title game between Memphis and Cincinnati. So if this video, click back to the couple of 2-3 videos, you'll see all the previews that I've done. Check them out. Tomorrow we'll have the hype and hate, and I'll see you guys tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern here, live on YouTube for the call-in show. Have a good morning in that.